You know, it never, still to this day, is not about what's in magazines and what's fashion. I think one of our challenges was to create real people that I always wanted Nadine Hurley to knit her own sweater. Like, that was something for me that I always felt she would make a variegated yarn knit sweater that she would have. So I think that was one of the important things, is to create real people. And why do any of us wear what we wear? And the same coming from this small town. Josie Packard was probably, or Piper Laurie's character, Catherine, because or Ben Horn, who perhaps traveled the world, their point of reference in their clothing was different than the people who stayed in the town and who didn't leave the town, except in perhaps whatever they saw in a magazine but then with somebody like Ian Buchanan, who worked at the department store, that was one of the things that Lucy liked. She said in an episode about, well, he has a jacket, Andy doesn't have a jacket.
So one of the great things I want to explore with Laurie here is how the work coming in from Angelo got incorporated into the various episodes. So I thought maybe the collaboration between a director and a music editor would be interesting. How did the two of you work together to score the episodes that you guys made?
Usually they had an almost final cut that we would sit down and look at together and spot, where the music was going to be and what the mood of the scene was. It was really general. And I had just this, brigade of music cues. So we really didn't get specific in the first meeting, except to put up a little bit, does this feel right? And the director would say, no, that's all wrong. Or they would sort of give me direction. I would take copious notes and then bring them back in a few days to take a look at, what I sort of would sketch out the music. And it was different the first season because it was all on film and mag with a big cam it was I could only run 2 or 3 reels of audio at one time, so it was really hard. But the second season was the first year of digital audio, so I was one of the first editors using that medium, and it made my life so much easier.
I do remember the mixes of, we mixed at Todd-AO, and everything was done, finished exactly as you would a film. And, it was thrilling to go to Todd-AO and see it, the film projected, and it looked amazing, and it would sound fantastic. And then David would make us listen to it on the worst, RCA TV. So the playback would be on this, piece of shit, And, for fear that's what somebody would have in their house. So you would really hear, what it was going to sound like in any, the worst possible scenario. And it was always after it sounded great, it would be
yeah.
But it was thrilling. The whole process was thrilling.
Well, what we've heard is that Angelo would compose one scene per episode. And I'm curious to know how that scene got selected, whether that was something that came from the director, or whether it was something that came from Mark and David, and which scenes, you wound up actually having composition for, if you remember.
I directed 4 episodes, and 3 of them were fairly early on, or before Laura Palmer's Killer was discovered. And I'm trying to remember, I feel like we spent more time going through cues that existed.
The first season we did, it was all handed to us.
Yes.
Before we started with episode 1. In the second season, there were some scenes, if you'll recall the scene when Donna and Maddie sneak into Harold's to try to steal the diary.
Yes.
That was scored to picture.
Yeah, I remember that because that was one of the episodes I did. And that was a very specific mood for that scene.
Yeah. So that's an example of one of the scenes that was scored to picture.
And Catherine, I had your first Log Lady scene.
I remember.
Yes, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. We sat around that table for a whole day
We did.
because we had so much coverage to do of that tea party.
There were so many people in that tea party.
Yes, and you were such a good director and so patient.
Oh,
Yes, it was a wonderful day because we all really shared with each other how to cover that. And I remember bringing in a lot of things from my own home
yes.
for her cottage, a little deer and lots of little props around. The prop people were very generous about letting us bring in our own doilies, and
It was very specific.
not that I'm a doily person,
No.
but I had some doilies. Yeah, it was.
It worked well for them.
And I think it was the day before Thanksgiving, so the crew was really eager to leave.
Yes.
But you stuck with it and did that coverage, and I'm so happy you did. It was great fun.
The whole thing was an amazing experience.
I'm curious for Michael and Harley.